Well, good morning. It is May the 12th, Wednesday, 2021. You have 5 more days to get your taxes in if you are one of the procrastinators. We continue in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, talking about learning the right time to act. And we come to the phrase, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. This is not a simplistic understanding of this phrase. Some really older Jewish commentators suggested that this had to do with the purity and the impurity of marriage. And we do know that the Pharisees gathered a woman of the night, if you please, and brought her to Jesus and were prepared to put her to death by casting stones. These Jewish commentators believed that the throwing of stones was because of impurity in the marriage relationship, in other words, adultery. And the gathering of stones, they believed, were in preparation for that. The stones were a reminder of the purity of the woman. And I think I might have stated that wrong, so let me try that again. The throwing of stones was for the impurity of the wife. The gathering of stones was for a reminder of the purity of the wife. And we do know that there were special times in the nation of Israel where stones were piled upon one another as a memorial. And as fathers walked by them with their children, they would answer the child's questions, why are these stones stacked up like that? And the father would relate the story of how God did something special for them at that place. That is, in my opinion, a bit of a stretch. Rather, I think there is more scriptural support for the following concept: a time to throw stones. In 2 Kings, we have chapter 3 about what God told Israel to do after the battle with the Moabites. And in 2 Kings chapter 3, God speaking in verse 19, "Then you shall strike every fortified city and every choice city, and fell every good tree, and stop all springs of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones." And then in verse 25, the record of whether they obeyed God or not. "Thus they destroyed the cities, and each one threw a stone on every piece of good land and filled it. So they stopped up all the springs of water and fell all the good trees, until in Kir Harish only they left its stones. However, the slingers went about it and struck it." So what's the idea of throwing stones here? It is to mar the land where it would become inhabitable for vegetation or for growing, and it would take such an exertion of time and energy to clear the land. Now, time to gather stones would be understood in the building process, and they would gather stones to either build a wall or construct a house or whatever building direction and pursuit that they were involved with. So, a time to throw stones, I believe, is better understood about marring the enemy's land. And a time to gather stones would be for a person to develop a stockpile, if you please, in order to complete a construction project that they had in mind. Tomorrow, when we get together, we'll talk about a time to embrace and a time to shun embracing. I trust that you will have a good Wednesday. I hope that you have good and fair and decent weather. If not, still rejoice in the Lord. And again, I say, rejoice.